DTFF.
Once again, here is Drinking and Talking Fantasy Football with your hosts, Dustin Lunt and Jake Trowbridge.
Good evening, everyone. Happy Tuesday if you're joining us live this evening. Thank you so much. DTFF is back, better than ever. Got another fantastic episode for you this evening. We're switching it up a little bit from what we normally do. We're dipping our little twinkle toes into some DFS this evening. Jake and I, we've been doing kind of DFS all season long here, but finally, let's bring it to the masses. Talk through some of our processes as we're going through these DFS choices, and that's going to be the show. Obviously, we're going to give you our starts of the week and everything else that you're accustomed to hear from us, but the core of the show a little bit different. Before we get into it, though, I need to introduce my host and say happy birthday to Jake Trowbridge.
Hey.
Happy birthday, Jake!
Thanks, Dustin. It's my birthday, and as an adult, that just means that I get to drink whatever I want, and eat whatever I want, and generally kind of do whatever I want. So it's not that different from most days, I gotta say. It's really not.
As an adult, yes, birthdays mean less and less the older you get, I guess, to some point. I haven't reached that tipping point yet, but for everyone out there, if you're listening to this after the fact, go back, tag Jake at Jake Trowbridge on Twitter. Wish him a happy belated birthday.
I didn't wear a birthday hat. Was I supposed to wear a birthday hat? I feel like I'm letting this down. I don't know. Or have one of those kazoo things. Not a kazoo. The blowy noisemaker.
Yeah. I thought about trying to find one if I had one around the house to do it, and I just got lazy and didn't. So you just get a simple faced virtual face happy birthday.
I'll still take it. And I will take a nice kind of week off from following our beloved Packers. So we had a bye week for our homerism. Doesn't mean it was a bye week, obviously, for fantasy football, as we had our last, in most leagues, our last hurrah trying to make a push for the playoffs. Dustin, how are you doing? I know how you're doing in our league. Feel free to gloat about that. But how are you doing in all of your leagues as a whole?
More better than not. So I'm in leagues that truly count to me. I'm in 5 leagues. So I've got a bye in 2 of them, sneaking into the 6th seed in one of them. And by far, by like 200 points, the lowest scoring team in the playoffs. So
that just means you're dangerous.
Yes. And then my other leagues, I totally whiffed and did terrible. So, but yeah, 2 first round buys. So I'm very happy about that, especially in our home league, the number 1 seed. Knock on wood, this is my year. I don't want to jinx it yet and get too confident. Although I did lose my starting quarterback to an ACL, Kyler Murray, which is unfortunate. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, man, that's brutal. That's rough. A lot of people are in that boat now. Injury palooza on Monday night, by the way. Dustin, I don't know if you were watching much of that game, but holy hell, every 5 minutes, there is a significant injury to somebody. So Kyler was the first to go down, like on the 3rd snap of the game or something like that.
And it's
then
just
James
too bad.
Conner went
ACL,
out.
just
No.
Because he's not going to be back to start the year, and even if he does come back, it's probably not going to be up to full health for most of the year. So I guess, Jake, let me throw this to you. Is he where is he going to rank, coming into redraft next season? Is he going to be on your board as like a mid-round quarterback? I drafted him, I want to say, in like the 5th round this year. Would you be confident in taking him there, or are you going to let someone else take him and pick a different quarterback?
Some of it's going to have to be a wait and see. I mean, right now,
It's fair.
it's hard to ever say like he's going to come back and he could even be fine to start the year because that's just
Right.
not realistic. But you never know. So obviously, as the offseason goes on, we'll take a look. But right now, a mobile quarterback, maybe one of the more mobile ones in the league right now, dealing with an ACL in a one quarterback league where he might not be healthy until halfway through the season, he won't be on my board if that's the case. And if nothing looks better from his health standpoint. So that sucks. And I have him. One league that I'm limping into the playoffs right now in my dynasty league, I had him and Russell Wilson as two of my main quarterbacks there.
Oof.
I'm scrambling for these, backup fill-in types right now. Also, just because I want people to feel so pitied for me on my birthday, I had James Conner in that league, who, by the way, he actually did come back into the game and finished it out and had a pretty good day, but I worry about him going forward. You never know how much of the adrenaline was a factor in him just wanting to finish the game. So it could end up bad. But I also had Deebo Samuel in that league. He's going to be out for the majority of the fantasy playoffs. Sounds like he'll be back at some point in the season, but I'll miss him for the rest of the way. So not a good look for a team that's just scratching its way into the playoffs anyhow.
Yeah, and as you're saying, another injury that just something to monitor going into the playoffs here is Ramondre Stevenson was injured. Not a lot of news on if this is going to be a long-term injury or what's going to happen, but again, something to monitor here with the playoffs around the corner. Thankfully, again, I have him on my bye team this week. So I have a week to not have to worry about making that decision, which is really nice. But yeah, so how about your other leagues, Jake? Any other ones where you're feeling confident with your playoffs?
Yeah, I'm feeling much more confident in some other leagues where I feel like I feel like I'm ready to dominate. Like there's one right now. I think we talked about this where I was kind of coasting. I was an undefeated team. I don't want to brag about it, but then Dallas Goedert got injured, and then it kind of put my trajectory down a little bit. But Dallas Goedert should be on his way back, if not this week, then the following week. And I do have a bye in that league anyhow, so that's nice. Dustin, I think it is so crucial to deal with injuries right now in a way that is not overly reactionary, but like you better be making some, like Ramondre Stevenson's a great call out, even though you have a bye week. It's probably pretty prudent to seek out whatever scrap running back you can afford to pick up in those leagues just in case. So Pierre Strong, by the way, just going to throw that out. He looked great in relief of Ramondre Stevenson. Limited action, of course, but pick somebody like him up and just hope. I guess at this point, just hope.
Well, yeah, and having him as kind of the handcuff to Stevenson at this point, not a bad idea if he's out there on your waiver wire. You could probably get him fairly cheap, especially if you're using the FAB system here. If you're working on waiver wire priority, good luck. Hopefully one of the league mates that is not in the playoffs isn't being a dick and pulling those players from the pool, although that is well within their rights. It's league is still playing. So I personally have nothing against it, but if I got blocked in that way, I would be slightly irritated as well.
Slightly. Sure.
Slightly.
Use some heavy use of air quotes there.
Yes.
But yes. Dustin, we don't need to worry about that right now. We can save that potential frustration for down the road. What are we drinking tonight? Well, I mean, I know what I'm drinking later on, but what are we drinking right now?
Well, I am drinking wine this evening.
So classy.
Well, it's just one of those days. I'm like, I need something a little bit stronger. I need some wine. So this is something from our wine club we've got. It's a Merlot Cabernet from 2020, 50-50 blend. I don't know. I don't think it's that fancy or anything, but it's good.
What's the name on that label there?
It's La Petite Blood.
Blood.
This is from France. It's South France.
So
there you go.
That's how you know it's wine.
Yep.
I don't know. I don't know anything about wine. I've said that many times, and I, stand by it now. And that's why I'm not drinking it. I'm drinking.
And what are you drinking?
I'm drinking a standby from Delta Beer Lab, local Madison joint here. Got the coffee brown ale in my belly
Nice.
right now. It's so good. It's so damn good. They have a chai brown ale, which I'm less keen on, but
Yeah,
in
not a big chai fan either.
the colder months, I'll switch it up, but not now. Now I got my coffee.
Perfect. All right. So we have a beer bet payoff here to do. To refresh everybody from last week, our beer bet was Kirk Cousins versus Jared Goff. I took Goff, you took Cousins, and I believe this was my beer bet.
That's correct.
So you this one is got to sting for you because you lost this one. And it's not because you had a bad pick. Both these quarterbacks did fantastic last week. So Kirk Cousins ended up QB5, 25 points. Hey, nice week. Top 5 outing. Love it.
Beautiful.
Jared Goff, QB4 with 26.1, just eking you out.
Wild.
And it makes me feel so good. When I was looking that up, getting the show sheet ready tonight, I was like, ooh, a close one. And I like this because it works out in my favor.
I like to think that you sat there and twirled on an imaginary long mustache as you did that. You had a real, Wiley Whiplash kind of vibe to you or something. But you did win fair and square. And because of that, it does sting a little bit more that I lost because of Kirk Cousins, because, that's just always going to feel doubly bad, I think. But I did. And so that makes you an amazing fantasy football prognosticator / genius. Cheers.
Thank you.
Now, because it's my birthday, I gave myself a little bit of a treat. I didn't do my typical gross shot
Oh, as
of
one
like
should.
straight up whiskey. So I did some vanilla vodka mixed with a little bit of Bailey's. It's pretty good.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, so almost like a White Russian.
In a way,
Almost.
yeah. It's a kind of.
It sounds good. Like don't
it's
get me
a
wrong.
beige Russian.
Yeah, it sounds delicious. That's all that matters.
It is. Don't you worry. It definitely is. All right. You want to do this thing? I'm excited for this segment because I have one that I think is going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, good. And I haven't seen this, so I am doubly excited for it.
Drunk, hammered,
Drunk trade of the week.
Dustin, this week's drunk trade, it's really a dank trade of the week. And so just for this week, we're going to switch it up a little bit. Sean K11 from Reddit submits that he had a trade offer get rejected, then went to smoke a fat bowl, was desperate for an RB, so chatted with the guy on Facebook and settled for this trade. Keep in mind, this is a redraft trade. I'd like to think about it from a dynasty perspective too, but this one is
Right.
redraft.
Do we know, before you get going, do you know when this trade was made in the season by chance?
I will actually tell you as we get going.
Okay. Oh,
through this
sorry.
trade.
Oh,
That's
my
right. The
apologies.
context is baked right into this bad boy. He gave us everything he got, everything we need for this one. So the actual trade itself, redraft PPR, is giving away Amon-Ra St. Brown plus AJ Dillon to get Dameon Pierce and Rondale Moore. Now, this was 5 minutes before the Thursday night game where Pierce went for 139 yards. For that reference, that is week 9 against Philadelphia, where he managed that. So this is a middle of the season trade. Pretty sure I lost the trade, Sean says, but my RB2 was Herbert. That's Khalil Herbert. And my wide receivers were Devontae, Adams, Amon-Ra, Hollywood Brown, Mike Williams, Tyler Lockett, and Kadarius Toney. So there's a good look at what the depth looked like at one position versus the other. Dustin, they say they lost this trade, but do we still feel like that?
I'm gonna say yes. I do. I'm and I don't have stats pulled up to back this up, but I feel like Pierce has kind of slowed down a little bit as the year has gone on here. Hasn't been producing like he did at the start of the year. Granted, with Herbert getting injured, you needed a running back. So, I mean, I don't hate it from that aspect, especially since at that point, AJ Dillon wasn't really involved in the offense at all, except for some, minor touches here and there. I do hate giving up Amon-Ra St. Brown because he's having such another fantastic season this year, and Rondale Moore does not do anything for me. But you have Devontae, Hollywood coming back from injury. Mike Williams has his boom weeks. Lockett's been having a typical Tyler Lockett season. So I understand why you would want to trade away Amon-Ra there, since you do have good wide receiver depth. But I still am not a big fan of this trade.
I agree. And just for your own reference, I was curious where you felt without seeing the actual stats since this trade went down. AJ Dillon, Damian Pierce, literally back-to-back, running back 27 and running back 28, separated by one single fantasy point over that span. So you didn't lose anything there, but yes, you still lost with Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is currently the wide receiver 3 since then. Now, Devontae obviously is the wide receiver 1 in that span. So like you said, still feels great to have him there. And the other guys, I mean, Tony's, done nothing. Lockett, fine, completely fine.
Yeah.
But having that 1-2 punch of Devontae and Amon-Ra would, it would sit a lot better, I think. Unfortunate that the Fat Bowl led Sean down this road.
Yep. I suppose if you got that win when you traded for Pierce, when he went for 139 yards, if that win got you into the playoffs or something, or helped secure you an extra win to get like a first round bye, then I guess it was worth it at that point. But overall, no, I don't like it. The electric cabbage just did nothing for you here.
It's been a very long time since I don't know if I've ever heard anybody refer to it as electric cabbage before. I've heard the devil's lettuce. That's a pretty popular one, I think. Never electric cabbage, but
there you go.
Think about from now on.
Well, my job here is done. Perfect.
You nailed it.
Let's sign off. See you guys next week. It's been another great episode of DTFF.
No. So much more to have.
So much more. No, we don't want to ruin this DFS fun we're going to have here tonight. So, as we said, we're doing DFS, just something here as we're getting ready for the playoffs. Some of us are in it. Some of us are not, depending on how big of a degenerate of fantasy football you are. So this is more for the people that are not in the playoffs. Football's still going on. You can still have some fun, make your Sundays interesting, and give you something to root for. So yeah, we're going to go through a couple of our more favorite platforms to do DFS on. And I know, Jake, you and I do multiple DFS teeny tiny wagers every single week. Or at least I should speak for myself. I don't do big wagers. I am not that confident in my DFS abilities. I don't listen to DFS podcasts, although there's plenty of them out there that if you guys are really interested in that, just do a search for them. People out there that are way smarter than us on DFS will be able to give you some good advice if that's something you really want to start getting into.
Cough, Harris Football Podcast on Thursdays. I hear they have a really cool and sexy guest on sometimes. So you should probably check that out.
You should probably check that one out first and foremost.
But I'm sure there are others as well.
Yes.
But we are going to use this string of that we like to use. We're not beholden to any one particular company right now, but I will say my favorite, and it's not just because if you sign up with promo code LIFE from fantasylife.com, you can get a sign-up credit, but it's because I genuinely love Underdog. And so we are going to spend some time doing an Underdog pick'em today. Anybody not familiar with this? It's pretty simple, right? They give you some props. They give you some stats for each player, and you simply say whether they're going to do higher or lower than that. Here's the first one off the list. It's Christian McCaffrey. They say 4.5 receptions. So is he going to get more than that? Is he going to get less than that? You choose. You add as many as you want into this lineup. The more you add, the higher your multiplier for your payout. So obviously it gets harder to do that, but that's what I like to do, Dustin, right? You can add as many as 5 picks. That's kind of what we're planning to do, right?
Absolutely.
Nice. Well, I love Underdog as we kind of get into this is it lets you go through every damn game on the slate. You can mix and match. You don't have to stick to just one game, not even one day. You can do freaking as many as you want. So can be overwhelming, just a little bit. But Dustin, do you have a game in mind for week 15 or some players in mind? You're like, man, I really want to see what they have them locked up for on Underdog.
Can't say I do. Normally, I will do this right before the Sunday morning slates start at noon Central Standard Time here, since we are in the Central Time Zone. Typically I do it between like 11 and 11:45. Trying to wait a little bit to make sure any possible injury news is out or last minute sits are announced. So I usually don't do it this early. So it's interesting seeing all the games as far as the Thursday night game. We've got 3 Saturday games this week, folks. Love December when college football is done. Get those Saturday NFL standalone games. The thing I guess I'm most curious about here, Jake, and maybe you have a little bit more experience than I do on this, that we are looking at this on a Tuesday evening. If the lines change or the props change come Sunday morning for like some of the Sunday games, whether it's based on weather or other injuries to other players in the game or whatnot.
Yeah, the lines will often change. A lot of the times they'll be more unfavorable as the week progresses. Once you get against the Sunday games, you're going to see some of these, the ones that you want to smash the over, they're going to increase what the over actually is. And so it is, I find, normally more advantageous to do it earlier in the week, but it's also a little bit scarier to do it earlier in the week.
Yeah,
so
here's
one bit to note. You can add insurance to your picks, by the way. So what this means is as we're going through, and because it is a little early in the week, maybe we don't feel as confident in all of these as we would. You can say, I'm going to add 5 picks to this thing, but I only want to have to get 3 of them right. And so you can do that where it like mitigates the risk involved, but your payout also becomes less by doing that. So that's not very fun to me, Dustin. I don't like being insured for something like this. I just
like barely dangerously.
I just barely have real life insurance. I mean, I'm not going to get insurance on this. Mr. Scamper's in the, by the way, Scampers asking what Kenny Galladay's line is. I would be shocked and appalled if it was more than a yard.
Well, I took a look for Scampers there, and there is no line right now for Kenny Galladay out there.
Yeah, that feels right. It feels right. It also feels unfortunate. I really would like you to attack that. But Dustin, we're talking about, I think the Sunday games are typically your bread and butter. That's when you start to look at these. Why not start at the Sundays, right? We'll ignore the other ones just for now. Here's one I want to talk about. Kansas City and Houston.
All right.
This is, for fantasy purposes, right, kind of gross because we know that Houston is terrible. We know that Kansas City is just fantastic on the offensive side of the ball. So what that would normally suggest for fantasy is like good luck getting many fantasy points out of anybody on either side of the ball because Kansas City is probably not going to have to do much in the second half. Houston can try in the second half and fail admirably. So sometimes that means that the unders can be really tasty in these games. Like look at Patrick Mahomes. His line for passing yards is set at 305.5 right now. Can you imagine a world where Mahomes actually needs to throw for close to that in this game?
Is there a need? Not necessarily, but Can I see it happening? Sure. I mean,
Yeah.
let's be honest. I mean,
Sure.
with the way that offense runs, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. But I do get your point there. I mean, over 300 is a high bar for them to set. So
It is. And just for reference, if we're going back here, there have been plenty of times where Mahomes has fallen under that. Granted, most of them were early on in the season. But just a couple of weeks ago against Cincinnati, he put up 223 yards. That's kind of the opposite rationale for why he might do that this week. Cincinnati's just a good defense, good team. Patrick Mahomes needed to, just didn't there. But I'm saying it's possible it could happen. All right, we can keep scrolling down if there are ones that you feel a little bit more confident in, certainly. And there's no Houston players even listed, by the way, which is so funny. Not a single Houston Texans player.
Which I'm guessing will change as you get, come Sunday. If we're getting a little bit closer, I'm sure they'll add more props out there for us to look at. But yeah, as it is right now, not so much.
Absolutely. One I want to look at here, Dustin, because spoiler alert, we're going to be talking about this guy a little bit later in the show. I want to look at the Vikings. I want to look at the Colts-Vikings game because here's a fun little tidbit for you. Do with this what you will. But the Vikings have been bad, You know how they've been bad on defense? Well, this is how bad they've been. The last 7, this is from Paul Charchian on Twitter. The last 7 non-Taylor Heineke quarterbacks playing against Minnesota have all thrown for a baseline of 300 yards. Cap 137 is the lowest. Matt Ryan sitting here at 248.5 for his passing yards. Kind of feels like a gimme, doesn't it?
That does. Yeah, let's hit that. Hit it.
Done. We got one locked up. We got 4 more to go. We could go with the Jonathan Taylor thing here. I don't know about you. I'm not a huge fan of doing like a quarterback, running back thing in these. That's just not for me. I like to avoid that. So how about old Kirky here? So we just talked last week. Kirk versus Detroit obviously did fantastic, but the Colts are not Detroit in terms of a pass defense. And so 269.5 doesn't feel like as much of a gimme here for Kirk. Do we agree at least on that?
It does. But I want to direct you slightly lower in that Minnesota one to Adam Thielen, that 52.5 yards. I feel like that's a smash lower for me.
Yeah, as we look back through what Thielen's done, even in his most advantageous matchups, like again against Detroit, he did get 65 yards. But look at the Jets the week before, 27 yards. Dallas a couple of weeks ago, 25, 49.
And the Colts have the second rated pass defense in the league as well. Well, I think Justin Jefferson will still get his. I mean, because there's no stopping him because he's a man. I think 52.5. Like Thielen, he hasn't been popping off this season as we had seen recently, especially with Hawkinson coming on board. So I feel like, I don't know, this is your money we're playing with here, Jake, tonight. But I feel like that would be one where I would take the lower on it.
Yeah, they have allowed the fewest yards to wide receivers, 118.4 in total across the board to all receivers per game. So I'm very comfortable with that. I like that. Let's put the Adam Thielen lower in as we got Baltimore and Cleveland. Cleveland's been a shit show ever since Deshaun Watson came back. So,
shocker.
Go figure. Right. So we could certainly attack that and say, kind of one, fuck that guy and fuck that team. And because we don't believe in the fantasy output either, or the real life output of that, he hit 276 yards in absolute garbage time last week against Cincinnati. But Baltimore, they're going to be playing a backup. There's not going to be as maybe much of a need to even try for garbage time. Could take a look there. Nick has kind of died off as well during that time with him coming back. I mean, the whole offense really has
taken a step
so
backwards.
Yeah, I'd be comfortable with any of these guys doing, I think, the under, like Nick Chubb, 74.5 rushing yards. I don't know. I could see doing that. Amari Cooper, 59.5. I honestly think any of those could be fine for the under. It's not as much fun to bet the under. I understand. You want to like root for things to happen and then watch the games and then just get excited that they could still happen, because when they're over, then it's worn out, like it's done. But I think sometimes it's smarter to do the unders as well. Do you have any strong feelings about any of those four?
Yeah, I hate to bet against Nick Chubb, but I feel like the Nick Chubb 74.5 rushing yards.
Yeah, and
I
for
mean, Baltimore's got a pretty stout defense.
Yeah, Baltimore is about the third lowest on that list of rushing yards allowed. So I'm very comfortable with that too. Let's lock in Nick Chubb. Let's just do it. All right. So we got Matt Ryan over 248.5, Adam Thielen under 52.5, and Nick Chubb under 74.5 for rushing yards. We might as well throw a tight end in here now. I mean, we've got one of every other position in here.
Might as well. Why not?
I kind of hate doing that, but we could. I mean, Travis Kelce is staring at us. 75.5 receiving yards against Houston. I don't know. Again, this could be a situation where they need him for like one quarter, and then they have the game locked up. And then you're not going to get anything out of him.
Yeah, but I mean, it's Travis Kelce. Who else are they going to throw to?
3 straight games under 71 yards, by the way, against Denver, against Cincy, and against the Rams. I also was surprised by that. I was getting ready to say, like, he's an absolute smash because 100 yards every damn game? He's on a bit of a tepid streak. Obviously, it could erupt at any time, like you said. That's interesting. I'm not disinterested in that. Or would you rather think about the Mahomes 305.5 total yards?
Oh,
it's passing and rushing, by the way.
Right. I do kind of like that one.
The Mahomes?
The lower, yeah. Hit the lower on that one.
I'm good with that. Yeah, I'm really okay with either. I feel like Travis Kelce has still more of an opportunity to screw us over by crushing, because, you know, it's Houston and all that. All right, we got room for one more, unless we're sitting tight at 4 with a 10 times multiplier. But do you want to go for the big guns? You want to jump that thing up to 20?
Absolutely. Go bigger.
All right,
go
we talked
home.
about Amon-Ra in the trade. Any interest in Amon-Ra St. Brown? 78.5 yards. He's going against the Jets. Jets are
tough,
fairly
defense.
stingy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So 78.5. Again, it does feel bad that we're doing so many lowers, but, you know, when the opportunities are there, or on the other side of the ball, like White, the man, the myth, the legend, the guy with 1,000 extra ribs, apparently, he kept getting crushed over and over in his ribs on Sunday and just kept getting back up.
Oh, is he?
But he's going against Detroit.
I know. So we're assuming he's going to be healthy and playing, correct?
That's the dangerous assumption right now. Yes. And I wonder if that's why his yards are maybe a bit lower than they should be going against Detroit.
Right. I'm wondering, I mean, if I was confident he's going to play, I would hit the higher on that. But I guess that's the point of the wager at this point with such lower yards. But I mean, I love the matchup against Detroit. We saw what Kirk Cousins did last week against Detroit. You know, it's going to be a lot of passing yards, a lot of offense, not quite so much defense. I feel like even with Detroit, you know, going against New York, they're going to score points. So I think let's take the over. Why not?
Or let me float one other one out to you. We've got Jared Goff, 252.5 passing yards, going against the Jets. As we acknowledged, very stingy. I would not feel comfortable taking the lower on, say, Garrett Wilson, who's here, 70.5 receiving yards. I wouldn't feel comfortable with that. I think he's still too good, and he could make that work.
Yeah.
But the Jets are currently because the Jets are averaging right now 208 passing yards against them. Is Jared Goff good enough to overcome that? Because now we're talking about him as maybe being elite, at least Pat Statter, if nothing else. So that's another one. Again, do we go lower or over? Or, oh my God, we haven't talked about the Jaguars. Dustin, it's our offense. Do we instead pivot to the Jaguars just so we can get some of them into our lineup? Oh my goodness. So many options. So many options. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, as I was scrolling, I was taking a look at the Philadelphia game.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that Devonta Smith line.
56.5 receiving. Do you like it because you think he's going to smash it?
Yes.
Let's take a look here. Because he's so boom or bust. But he has hit it in 3 of the last 4.
Yeah, he's been on a bit of
Chicago.
a hot streak, and it's against Chicago and their terrible defense.
Yeah. I mean, A.J. Brown 70.5 is also, of course, very doable. But I like the Devontae Brown one. Or Devonta Smith. Jesus.
Just
if only we could merge them together. Yeah. Let's do a higher. I like it. Let's put some confidence in this dude. And it's Chicago. They can absolutely do that against Chicago. We got 5.
All right. So I know they put a max on $1,000 bids, and it's your money, Jakes. Do you want to throw 1,000 on it for a $20,000 payout?
I think I should do 2 separate $1,000 bids since they won't let me do more than that. No, I'm going to put $5 on it though for a nice $100 pay. So let's click the submit. I love it. Confirm. And we are ready to ride with Underdog there. We'll share this pick on Twitter, by the way. If you're interested in betting with us, feel free to. If you want to throw some money in it, absolutely, you can do that.
That's right. And Jake, before we jump over to a different platform here, we do have a question in the chat. Have Trevor Lawrence, but don't trust him against the Cowboys. Should I pick up Mike White or Daniel Jones?
This is a very appropriately timed question, as we were talking about. One, Mike White, whether he's guaranteed locked into play, which again, we don't know for sure right now. So picking him up comes with its own questions. I want to believe in Trevor Lawrence, and he's done nothing to dissuade me for the last 5-6 weeks that he can't handle the Dallas defense. I think he can. So I don't know about you, but I know they're fairly stingy. I'd still rather start him than either of those two. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to just see. It looks like Mike White, he's day to day at this point. I think if he is good to go and there's really no concerns about his injury and about him being able to make it through the entire game, I would start Mike White and pick him up. But otherwise, yeah, I think I would go Trevor over Daniel Jones. The Giants have the Washington football team. They tied with them earlier in the season. They're both in the hunt for the playoffs. So, it's going to be a highly competitive, I feel like one of those defensive, very smash mouth type games. So I would go with Lawrence for the upside. But like I said, if everything's trending good as the week progresses here, I think I might pick him up and play him, as we were talking about earlier.
I think we're both lowest then on Daniel Jones at the very least. But yeah, and especially if you have a spot that you can afford to dump off a wide receiver or X-tight end, whatever, pick up Mike White just in case. And then, like you said, feel free to play him if he is good to go officially for that game.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Well, Dustin, we are, we took some time on that Underdog one. Do we want to set a lineup on FanDuel, or do we want to venture over to Monkey Knife Fight? Ball's in your court.
Because I love both so much. Let's do Monkey Knife Fight. I like doing the props more than setting the lineup.
You have too many lineups to already set yourself because you're so good at fantasy football
Yeah,
that you
that's
ended up
it.
in all of your playoffs.
That's it.
And so
Yeah.
that's what it is. All right, let's bring in the monkey knife fight here. So monkey knife fight, what we love, at least I know what I love, Dustin, is the amount of options that you get. And like
Mhm.
we do 8 or 10 props built into one. Right? Now, what happens with this
Absolutely.
though, a lot of the time this early, which I'm just noticing now,
They
they
don't have
don't
it.
have the big fun where it's like you can do a bunch of games all together. And so you would have to pick a game here and do
But
one game versus the full slate, I think.
they have it for the
Just
Saturday
saying.
games. If you wanted to do for the 3 games on Saturday, we could do an 8 for 8.
Where are you seeing that? I'm not seeing that. You give that to me. I don't see it. I
So
see the individual games.
scroll up. Scroll up.
Yeah, this is as far
Go
as it scrolls,
Saturday.
Dustin. I can't scroll any further. I've already scrolled.
All right, let me
I can go to featured, but it's just
let me share my
Hmm.
screen here.
Do you have a different screen than me? They let you do different stuff than I do? For shame. For shame, monkey knife fight. Allowing one to do it and not the other. Oh, look at that shit.
Yeah.
Look at that shit. How is yours so much different than mine?
Probably
That's
because
Are you a
I don't know.
VIP member? Are you a platinum member? Is that why?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So let's let's go big for an
Sure.
8 for 8. Or
Yeah,
just
those
a
are my
5 for
favorite ones.
5.
I was so disappointed when I didn't see those. Yeah, oh, the 8 for 8, man. That's where it's at. I'm telling you.
So it looks like we got a couple different ones here. We've got one for fantasy points and one for yards.
I feel more confident because I deal with so many different formats in my
Mhm.
life that I don't want to have to learn their fantasy points exact format.
Yes.
I like the yards.
All right. So here we go. So first one on the docket here is Tua, 270.5 passing yards.
Ooh, that's interesting. All right. So Tua this week is going against.
Buffalo.
Oh, I don't like that.
I know.
I really don't like that. But Tua himself, I mean, it's tough to discount him just because Tyreek and Jalen Waddle can get those yards themselves without Tua having to do much. Tua was atrocious last week, by the way, against the Chargers. I think with very little time left, he had a total of 7 completions or something outrageous. It was gross. But that's also kind of the rarity. Prior to that, he had 5 in a row that hit well over 270. But again, it's Buffalo.
Right. Well, Buffalo's defense has been a little bit dinged up lately, and I know Miami is really fighting for that playoff spot right now.
Yeah.
They are 8-5. You know, they're in the playoff hunt. I mean, they're in the spot for a wild card here. So I feel like they have a lot to play for, especially jockeying for position. So I can't. Should we just do the more?
Yeah, I think you've talked us into the more. I
right.
think if the fact that dinged up Mike White, who was in and out of the game, still managed 232 yards against him last week, I think that says Tua can do it. So I like that.
Yeah. All right. Captain Kirk is next. 265.5 passing yards.
I mean, this is where we ran into a question just prior. So 265.5, just a hair less than what they were asking for us on Underdog at 269. So this is what's interesting. It's like sometimes you can exploit that. I don't know if this is exploitable because it's still the Colts. I think we're still in the situation of taking the under. I mean, we didn't do that there. We went with Thielen there, but it feels right to take the under.
All right. Yeah. And then next one is Justin Jefferson with 99.5.
I hate this.
I mean,
I hate you, monkey knife.
This one, this is a tough one because I hate to bet against him because he's been so good. But at the same time, it's
if we're already taking Kirk Cousins under 265, Now we're saying Justin Jefferson at basically 100. You're looking at, what's some fast math, 35 to 40% of those passing yards. So if he's going to get 35 to 40% of those passing yards, can Kirk make up the rest? And then it's like you're almost betting against yourself if you take the over here, I feel like, right? Do we have to be, or can it just be the Justin Jefferson show? That could also be a thing.
Okay, here's the last, 6 weeks of Justin Jefferson's yards. Against Detroit, 223. Against the Jets, 45. New England, 139. Dallas, 33. Buffalo, 193. Washington, 115. Arizona, 98. I mean, so he's played some good defenses and had really good games.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, has played some soft defenses and hasn't put up hasn't put up the yards. So,
well, then it's like, hey, if he can do it against the tough defenses, then let's go with the tough defense. It is, I've never looked at this before. All in one shot, the amount of 100-yard games that he has this year is
it's crazy.
Fucking crazy. And 223 last week against Detroit. Take the over. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. All right.
Whew. All right. Our boy from Wisconsin, Jonathan Taylor, 83.5 rush yards.
I wish this was combined yards because I don't feel as confident because they're going against Minnesota. We talked about Matt Ryan, like I'm in love with Matt Ryan. I'll just say it this week because they get torched. The pass defense gets torched. He should be throwing a lot. Jonathan Taylor could get a lot of receiving yards even for screens and the like. But do I think that he will hit that number in rushing? I kind of don't. I kind of think we take the under.
I mean, just to throw this out here, the Vikings are 18th in the league in their rush defense. They are averaging 24 points per game to backfields.
Yeah.
If that changes anything for you.
Here's the thing. I guess there's really nobody else there for him because I'm looking at some of these stats. Like the Jets put up 120 yards on him. The Lions put up 130 yards on him. But we're talking about multiple backs. And that's like, well, you got to split that up. And that doesn't give me as much confidence. Jonathan Taylor has the lion's share of the backfield. So to that respect, you could.
I'm taking the over. I'm taking the over.
We're betting on 1,000 total yards for the Colts, I think, this upcoming Sunday. All right. Josh Allen, 255.5, passing only. Yep. This is how they get us. This is how they get us on Josh Allen. When's the last time? Actually, I don't know if it matters. He's getting Cole Beasley back, Dustin. That'll change everything. He threw for... because he's got his own injury issues too. Do we know for sure everything's good with Josh? He hasn't hit this since week 10 against Minnesota. Who else? Minnesota. Has not hit that line since then for pure passing yards. So if that gives you any sort of inklings. It's Miami. I get it. But I'd be okay
with the less. Yeah, let's take the less. All right, Nick Chubb coming in at 79.5.
We just talked about this on the last one. We have to stay consistent. Take that less. I'm very comfortable with it.
Yep. And then Tyreek, 89.5 receiving yards. I mean, we did take Tua for more than 270.
We did.
And a half.
This is, again, it almost feels like if he's not going to get 90 from Tyreek, who's he getting it from? I mean, Waddle, yes, can have a big game, but is he going to get that much? It feels like a more. It feels like that's one where we can go with the consistent more, right? Tyreek is injured, though. That always sucks. Monkey Knife Fight is great, by the way, about refunding these if players don't play, so we don't really have a worry on this one. But Tyreek,
it's 89.5. I mean, his stats, I mean, again, he's kind of like Justin Jefferson, had big boom weeks, and then he's had 81, 146, 85, 44, 143, 188. I mean, I feel like that's a pretty safe one to hit the over on.
Yeah, the only thing that gives you pause is he had 33 yards against Buffalo the last time they played back in week 3. So you look at that and you go,
But the Buffalo defense was, I think, playing at full strength at that time, where they're,
Right.
like I said earlier, they've had some injuries, which makes them a little bit easier to score against. So
I'm okay with this. Matt
All right.
Ryan, here he is. Here's our dude, 240.
Yep.
Oh, that's even better than we got over on Underdog. So we have to smash that more.
All right. And I will throw a 5 on it to win $625.
I mean, what could go wrong?
Boom.
What
Submitted. We're done.
possibly go wrong?
That's right.
Well, that's fun. Now we got 2. Follow along again. We can post. I think you can do the old copy paste on Twitter for that as well. So
I'm sure
we will
can.
put these up on the at Drinking Fantasy on Twitter, so you guys can follow along. You can use it as a template. You can bet with us, or you can bet against us. Do whatever makes your heart happy.
Tell us how much you love our picks. Tell us how much you hate them. Just start the conversation. We'll tell you why we're right every time. All right, let's get into our starts of the week here. Jake, last week you had Garrett Wilson as your start of the week going against Buffalo. Finished as wide receiver 27 with 13.8. Not terrible, but not great either. It was an okay week.
When I wanted.
Me, on the other hand, I had Miles Sanders going against the Giants. He ended up as RB3 with 28.5 points. So great success.
That was
on
nice.
my
Much more successful than whatever that accent was, I will say. But no, that was a really nice one.
Oh, that was my Borat accent. Come on, how'd you not know that?
Was it though? No, that was really.
I am not the voices guy in this podcast. That's you. So yeah,
now I just sound like a dick. No, that was a great call though. Miles Sanders, again, he just needs to get his flowers all season long because dude's been way better than I anticipated.
Yep, same. All right, Jake, who do you have for this week?
All right, it's not a surprise if you've been listening to any other part of this show, but Matt Ryan, I love him this week against the Vikings. It's just crazy. Again, let me just read off this one thing that tells you everything. The last 7 non-Taylor Heineke quarterbacks, none of them had worse than 307 yards against the Minnesota Vikings. They're giving up touchdowns galore. What is nice about Kirk Cousins is that he should be good enough to kind of keep them in the game and hopefully keep it at least close to where Matt Ryan needs to continue throwing. But I'm expecting, a top 10 week here.
Yeah, I can definitely see that happening. And then I have someone I was very high on to start the season. Went on injured reserve for quite some time. Came back last week, had a nice game. Still not quite his old self, I don't think, but it was nice to see him coming back healthy. And that is one J.K. Dobbins, looking good, going against Cleveland, that is going to give up points, and they don't have a very stout run defense. So I'm expecting him to continue his trend towards health and score you some big points this week in the first week of the fantasy playoffs.
Yeah, good timing on his comeback here for fantasy managers. People were giving him shit about how he ran this past week. They said he looked awkward. I didn't think that at all. And he crushed certainly on the ground. He actually just kind of looked like, don't take this out of context, he looked like Adrian Peterson in the way that he ran. Like he's just more of an upright, kind of lankier looking runner. I didn't think it looked weird, but everybody else did. So what are you going to do?
Yep. I agree. I saw those comments and I'm like, looks like he's running just fine to me. I don't know. What do I know? That's why I'm not a film guy, I guess.
Running up the score against my league mate. So
yeah.
Oh, fuck y'all. All right. Do we want to make another beer/shot bet? Of course we do. Not even going to let you answer.
No, it's yours this week. So hit me.
I'm ready. I'm so ready to ask you if you're ready for Thursday night football. Dustin, are you ready for Thursday night?
No.
Yes. No. Okay, fine. I've been waiting all day for Thursday night.
Yes,
look,
I am ready.
This is Big Cock Brock going against Geno Smith. This is 49ers versus Seattle Seahawks.
Mhm.
Dustin, I want mano a mano. I want the new hotness, Brock Purdy, against the revivalist of Geno Smith. Neither of these guys, obviously, before the season started, were on anybody's radar. Certainly not Brock, who's just gotten the start because of recent injuries, multiple injuries to other quarterbacks. But I want to ask you, do you want to take the guy who's new going against a little bit better of a defense? Or do you want to take the guy who's more solid and consistent going against a little tougher defense?
I will take Purdy. I'm pretty sure about this. Yeah, give me Brock Purdy. I think he had. I hate to say he has better weapons because that's just not.
Debo will be
Very-
out again this week.
Yeah, but you have Chris McCaffrey, you got Kittle, you got Brandon Ayuk still in there. I mean, I like his playmakers a little bit better than what Seattle has. Kenny, know what's going on there with his injury if he's going to be back. DK and Lockett, they've been kind of boomer bust. Could hit them this week where it's a good one for them, but San Francisco's defense is pretty tough. And San Francisco is, I mean, they're both playing for a playoff berth here, but I think San Francisco has that inside track right now. So they're the ones that are going to keep the foot on the gas, so to speak.
I can see that. And I know this feels like a gross bet to some people or like a really stupid bet. I actually am very excited about seeing how this game unfolds. The one detriment to it is that it's occurring on Thursday Night Football, where historically it's just garbage after garbage getting spewed out. But maybe they can break the mold. Fingers crossed they can break the mold. Now,
There's been a few good Thursday night games, or I should say decent ones this season. There's been a few decent ones. Yeah.
There's been a couple, I guess. I don't know about a few. That seems like too many, arguably.
Like one too many from a couple to a few.
I consider, this is an interesting debate. I always considered a few to be at least four. Few four. That's what I've always thought. But you're saying three quantifies as a few?
Yes. That's how I've always quantified it.
I think this deserves a poll. We should put out a poll. That's worthy of our listeners' time. In any case, yeah, I hope that they can break the Thursday Night Football mold and give us something here. Brock Purdy is dealing with an oblique injury, but looks like he's on track. Like Shanahan's basically all but said he's starting anyways. So I don't think that'll be an issue. But obviously, if he doesn't play or he doesn't finish the game, we'll factor that in.
Okay, sounds good. I just made a little note on the show sheet just to come back to how many is a few next week.
All right, done.
Because I do want to know this.
This poll could light Twitter on fire for all I know. Honestly, people get riled up about stupider shit than this. So I could see that happening.
Yeah. Any last words here, Jake, before we sign off this week? I will give the floor to you since it is your birthday.
Oh boy. No, I just want to make sure everybody who is in the playoffs enjoy the hell out of this. Be smart, be diligent. You maybe wake up an extra half an hour early to check your lineups on Saturday and Sunday. Definitely make sure that Saturday you are ready for those. No bye weeks, so no excuses in that way. Injuries, of course, always an excuse, but good luck, Godspeed. And again, you non-playoff folks out there, we feel you, and hit us up and we'll give you more DFS advice.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. Join us in the DFS arena here. And yeah, good luck in the playoffs for everyone that's in it. For those of you that have a bye, enjoy that week off. I don't know, Jake, before we sign up, when you have a bye in your league, do you still go through the motions of setting your lineup every week just to stay like sharp with it? Or are you just like, shh, I don't need this. I don't need to. I can wait till next week.
No way, man. You can't allow yourself to get rusty like that. I mean, you ever see these teams in the NFL, they get a bye week going to the playoffs, they come out, they're not ready to play. You don't want that to be you. You got to get keep the fingers active, keep your stress level at stress level midnight every time, regardless of if it actually counts or not.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I set lineups to just, I don't want to lose my edge. You got to have
right.
the edge.
You've always been
every
known
time.
for your edge. You don't
That's
want to
right.
let that go.
That's right. All right. Well, I think that should about do it for this week, folks. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for all the people in the chat here joining us with the comments. It was great. Uh, Join us every week. We're here 6:30 ish Central Standard Time every Tuesday. Join our YouTube channel. You can chat with us as we're recording live. We'll answer your questions. And we'll even throw some DFS stuff in there if you want to ask us DFS questions. We're here for you. Hit up my partner, the birthday boy, Jake Trowbridge, at Jake Trowbridge on Twitter. You can find me at FF Dusty Dog, but hit us up on our podcast account at Drinking Fantasy for all of your fantasy or non-fantasy related questions. We are here for you. And until next time, folks, peace, love, and humptiness forever.
Cheers, FFers.